Hi everyone, I thought we'd get together today and start my next knitting project. The past week has been a little bit wild and the upcoming weeks are also going to be a bit wild. So I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to put out the next proper sewing project that needs a lot of editing and a lot of work to go into it. So instead of just putting out a post saying, hey, there's not going to be a video for a while, I thought just for the people who enjoy my weekly videos, I'm just going to do a little chatty get together about casting this on and just telling you what's going on in my life. So I'm going to get my little adjustable needle kit out. Isn't this adorable? I was being really cheap and I was like, I'm not going to buy a whole set of adjustable needles. I'm just going to buy the ones I need, which basically meant that I bought the entire set individually anyway. So now I just have everything that I bought separately, probably spent more money on it. So yay. But we're going to need a size 5 and then a circumference of maybe 50 centimeters because we're going to be making the Olive Oyl Jumper by Fabel Knitwear. I have been working through Helena's patterns very slowly. I love all of them very much. So I've just been doing the Ali jumper at first, then I did the Norma Jean jumper, then I did the Elysian vest, and now the Olive Oyl jumper because that one has a sailor collar and you guys know I'm a sucker for a sailor collar. So I'm going to be working on that. The yarns we're using is the 128 Superwash by Cascade yarns in Ecru for the main body of the jumper. And then I've got Drops Alaska in North Sea, which is the perfect blue-green that I absolutely adore, and I thought they'd look cute together. So the sailor collar and the bottom and the cuffs have these little, basically like ribbons running around them. So this is what we'll be using. And I saw people on Ravelry using this yarn to make the jumper and this yarn to make the jumper. So I thought, that's great, I can just combine them. But when they arrived, they're actually different sizes of yarn. So we'll see how that works if I knit something in this size and then go in and make a row with that size. But also I haven't worked with this size of yarn yet, so I will be needing to do a little test square just to be on the safe side. 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. I cannot count in English, by the way. If you watch my pajama video, you will be aware by now that I got a job because I'm currently finishing my PhD up. Funding ended in February, at the end of February, so I haven't been paid in like 2 months. Yeah, so I have been quite desperately looking for a job, which is why I was so stressed the entire time, because in an ideal world, Jack would just pay the bills and I would just be doing my little YouTube and cook for him and enjoy my life, not working. But realistically, in this economy, we can't afford that. So I was just very desperate to find some income, as you can imagine. So I'm very happy that I managed to get a job. But I'm also aware that not all of you watch all of my videos. So in my last video where I was like, I got the job, people were then like, what job? So I thought I'd just sit down again, kind of talk you through what happened, you know, my background, why I'm here, what I'm doing, who I am. You know, the big questions that we ask ourselves on a daily basis. So I am a trained biologist. I did a bachelor's degree in biology at the University of Bielefeld, which I started in 2014 when I was but a baby. Then I went on and did a master's degree in molecular cell biology, also at the University of Bielefeld. I'm actually from close to Dortmund in Germany, which is not the best area to be from. My parents didn't fancy the idea of me moving too far away. So I didn't really look at many universities when I went to uni. I just looked at the ones that were kind of commutable, and Bielefeld was the first one to take me on. And I had never actually thought about Bielefeld before. I just applied to any university that had biology. And they took me on and I was like, yeah, sure. And then I went to Bielefeld and I actually really liked it. And then other universities actually offered me places as well. But then I was like, no, I'm already set. Like, I'm very much a person, once I've made up my mind, even if a better option comes out, I'm just not going to take it. I'm just like, I already made up my mind. I'm just going to do that course now, which is funny because Jack's like the opposite. Jack will always reconsider all of his options and always try to get the best one. Even if he's like entirely settled on an option, if another one comes up, he'll go with that one. So that's how I ended up in Bielefeld and quite enjoyed Bielefeld, to be honest. It's got a castle. It's like quite a cute little old town and generally liked it. But I didn't really have a good time studying. I think very soon into my bachelor's degree, I realized that biology wasn't for me, she said, now finishing her PhD in biology. But my parents were very adamant saying, you know, you can quit if you've got a better option. But having been raised in Germany, a better option is a bit debatable. You know, I wanted to be a graphic designer because I always loved working with Photoshop and doing stuff like that. So I also obviously had been doing social media for ages at that point already. I first started blogging when I was 15, when I went to America for a year. I always just liked doing stuff like this. Also at the time I had just written Weißblütig, my German book series. So I spent a lot of time doing the covers, which for the time were really nice. Bear in mind, it was 2014. So I was really into like photoshopping things and just doing like creative stuff. But that didn't really count to my parents as being a good alternative. So I never was able to really come up with a plan B to my career in biology. So alas, I continued my career in biology and I did a master's degree and then worked as a lab technician and then did a PhD. So yeah, I think I knew from my second year in university of my bachelor's degree that biology wasn't for me. But once you've gone down a path, like I said, it's really hard for me to change. Like I've made up my mind, I've done this, I'm not going to change now. So I was kind of just stuck in biology. And when I finished my master's degree, I worked as a lab technician for a while in parasitology, and I didn't really enjoy it. It was very, not, I wouldn't say dangerous, because obviously we've got health and safety stuff in place and I was the lab technician, so it was my responsibility to make sure everything was safe. But just working with samples where you're constantly aware, like these people that the samples came from have dangerous diseases I can catch, so I have to be super careful. And also I'm working with like blood and stool and pee. This wasn't for me. It wasn't my kind of work. So I wanted to go back into plant science, which is what I had done before, as plant science seems a little bit more whimsical, you know. So I got in touch with the person who inherited the project that I was working on before, because it was all a little bit messy. The PI, so like the professor, I guess, the professor that I was working with retired, and his postdoc was trying to take over but couldn't get funding, and it was just all a bit of a shame. So then the project continued because there was a little bit of funding left and the funding body wanted it to be finished. But at that point, the postdoc had found a different job and the PI was retired, so someone else inherited the project. So I got in touch with that person and I was like, I want to work for you. You know, I really want to go back into this project. What can I do to get there? And he said he didn't have a job, but he did have a PhD position. So that's how I ended up taking the PhD position, or rather I applied for it. Obviously he didn't just give it to me. I applied for it, got it, and then was like, yeah, I'm going to go back into plant science and I'm going to enjoy it so very much because I've enjoyed biology so greatly before I did parasitology, right? Yeah, so that didn't really work out. I came to realize that actually it wasn't parasitology that I didn't like, it was science. Again, that's a little bit simplistic, but I really like science as an idea. Like I like talking about science, I like being creative about science, I like giving lectures about science and trying to convince people that science is cool. But actually doing it, actually being in the lab and doing experiments just wasn't for me. And that was a big point because my new supervisor was very much into science. So he and I kept kind of like not getting in fights. Like I have a good relationship with my supervisor, but just we had very different mindsets about what matters in life. So just, yeah, I think the second year of my PhD was not a good year for me. That was when I cut my hair off. You know, a girl is desperate when she cuts her hair off. I also then ended up like really falling into like a bit of a pit of despair, but it led to me writing a map of stars and bones. So that's always good because, like, quite frankly, whenever I'm really sad, I get creative. So wrote my little book that came out of it. I did a lot of science communication and then got to the third year of my PhD where I was kind of like, okay, am I actually going to finish this now? And as you know by now, once I've made up a decision, I'm just going to stick with it. So I did finish my PhD, but I've just been very keen on the idea of leaving science, or at least leaving lab-based science. I didn't want to be in the lab anymore. I wanted to be like a science communicator, just something that is more creative, more writing-based, office-based. You know, I just didn't want to be in the lab anymore. So that's where I was applying for jobs. So had a PhD, had multiple publications to my name, applied for medical writing jobs, which is basically the job that like someone hires people to write their paper and to do like science communication for them. So I thought, this is what I want to do. I was at the Glasgow Science Festival. I did all of this stuff. I did lots of outreach. This is exactly what I want to do. And it is impossible to get a job in this kind of field. Like, honestly, to become a medical writer, you have to be a medical writer. So I applied for so many jobs. I talked to medical writers. They worked through my CV with me. We kind of like talked about what I needed to do, but it was impossible. So I applied for so many jobs and nothing happened. And I was like, I don't want to apply for lab-based jobs. Like, I know this is what I'm trying to do, but I just don't want to do it anymore. So then I started applying for other jobs. So I applied for like jobs in elderly homes because I do kind of like doing the household. So I was like, I would really like to do laundry in an elderly home. I love old people. Like, I love my grandma. I love being around old people way more than I like people around my own age. So I was like, maybe this is what I can do. And obviously I applied for sewing jobs. I applied for social media jobs because I have been working in social media since I was 14, 15. So yeah, I was just like, maybe this is the way. And yeah, it's been 7 months and there was just nothing. So then when I got this interview, I was honestly so relieved, also because it is a social media position with the University of Glasgow. And I have been at the University of Glasgow since 2019. So basically I always joke that I've been there when the University of Glasgow was first founded, but I like it. I like working at the Uni of Glasgow. There are really lovely people there. The community is nice. The canteen food is very overpriced. That's like the one thing I keep complaining about. But generally speaking, it's a nice place to work, and also like a lot of benefits come with being part of the University of Glasgow. So I was like, I want this job. I want to do this job, a social media job for the College of Arts and Humanities. Like, they do master's degrees, like dress history. Probably many of you will know Kat's Costumery because she actually studied dress history at the University of Glasgow. That's how I first met her. And it's just like a cool job. I wanted to do it. So I was very eager. I went all the way out to prepare for this interview, and it was an internal candidates only interview. So I kind of expected them to have an internal candidate already. And then I was the reserve candidate, so I didn't get the job immediately. I was like, if someone else turns it down, I'll get it. And I was like, how are the chances? So that's kind of what happened in the last video, or not for you, the second last. So that was like the kind of roller coaster I've been in for the past weeks. And then the person who got offered the job, I actually found out because I talked to my new boss. So she said that the person actually had some marketing experience, so they had studied marketing, so they were actually like more qualified than me. But they were still a student, so they would have not been able to actually take the job for a long time, and they needed someone to take the job sooner. So that's where I came in, and I'm like, yeah, that was so lucky. That was honestly so lucky. And I'm so glad, because this means I can still kind of talk about research, right? Can talk about like not science research, but like arts and humanities research, which by the way is much cooler anyways. So I can do that, and I can do literally what I'm doing all the time anyways. Like, doing social media has always been my second nature. I've like grown up writing blogs, and even like looking back, like when I first started social media, it was actually Una, which none of you will know, other than if you're like one of the people I grew up with, which I don't believe. I don't believe the people I grew up with watch my videos. But, so that was like a social media platform like Facebook, but for the tiny town that I lived in, there was nothing. Like, it wasn't all that exciting. But there was a picture of the day feature. So every day, a random picture that had been getting a lot of likes would be the picture of the day. So people who became picture of the day were like locally famous. So I, like, not to brag, but I was picture of the day twice. It was just an easier time just thinking about it. Like, back in the days when, you know, Soul is Great were still playing at the Una Stadtfest, it was just a better time. But that's how I started social media. Then I just did like, you know, my little blog about living in America when I did my year abroad, and continued afterwards. And actually, when I returned from America, I did my blog, which was called Dear Tally, and that's how it all started, because that's what I then continued doing. This is now my job. It's just crazy, the idea that I get paid to do social media. I mean, I guess I've been getting paid to do YouTube, but YouTube pays about like £7 per 1,000 views in my corner of the internet. So I'm not making a lot of money on YouTube. I'm making a little bit of like pocket money, but yeah, so now I'm getting paid to do that. So this has been really exciting. But just as things settled and I was like, okay, I've got a job, things are good, life is good, Jack got ill. Didn't get seriously ill. He didn't. So if you know anything about me, like I don't normally talk about it like overly much on here, but like if you know me in real life, you would know my biggest fear in life is throwing up. It controls my every thought and controls everything I do in life. So Jack was throwing up. Jack had food poisoning. At the time, we weren't sure whether it was food poisoning or something that he caught that is infectious. And also we had eaten the same stuff. So I was like, I am going to get this. And I was terrified. So that was like an absolute state of emergency in this household. I was like, Jack, you stay in the bedroom. I'll be sleeping on the couch. Like, I'll be feeding you and I'll be bringing you stuff, but I won't be spending time with you. I was bleaching the entire house. I was bleaching the bathroom. I was like, everything you touch needs to be bleached. I was terrified. It's been 3 days and I was kind of like, if I haven't caught it after 3 days, I won't have caught it. So I didn't catch it, but also I have not been eating solids for 3 days because I was so terrified of throwing up that I was like, I'm just not going to eat anything that will be difficult to throw up. So I've just been living off milk and smoothies. And I'm laughing about it, but yeah, I've been really scared. So that has been going on for the past days. But I lost 2.5 kilos, so I wanted to lose some weight anyway, so that's good. But today's the first day that I'll start eating solids again. I'm also going to Germany. Yay! In less than a week. So because I'm starting the job at the beginning of May, I thought, you know, the Uni of Glasgow actually gives us tons of annual leave. So I'll be having like 41 days off a year, which includes bank holidays. So I can take like 32 days of annual leave and then plus 9 days of bank holidays. So the Uni of Glasgow really has a very good annual leave policy, especially since my granny's been in the hospital recently. I thought I should probably go back to Germany before I start the job and, you know, see my family. Because I haven't been back in a year. My mum came over in December, but I just haven't been back. So in a moment of insanity, I booked a flight because, as you know, I'm scared of throwing up. So going on a flight is always very stressful because I get super anxious about traveling and flying by myself and have to really pump myself up with propranolol in order to be able to do that. Okay, so how big is this now? 10 centimeters. Wow, perfect. Okay, amazing. So that means I am knitting at an okay gauge. Frog this up and start casting on. Yay. But yeah, so I'm going to Germany and I am starting a job and I'm finishing up my PhD and I'm also trying to finish up my current draft of Map of Stars Unbound before I start my job. So with all of that going on, I might have to take a little bit of a break from YouTube. So that's why I'm just here and randomly chatting with you, just to say that I might need to take a little bit of a break just because a lot of things need to be finished up before I start the job. And then I need to see what the balance is. Like, I definitely not stop because in an ideal dream world, I still believe that one day I can build up this YouTube to a point where I can maybe do it part-time, then work part-time, which would be my dream. But as currently it stands, I don't make enough money on YouTube to justify working part-time in a real job. But then also maybe I like my job so much I won't even want to work part-time. But I do really appreciate the community we've built here and I will always continue sewing. So I think I just want to continue making content for YouTube as well. But I just have to settle into this new routine and figure out how things can work. But yeah, so that's, just my ramble about life lately and what's been going on and the new job and everything in life. I've been telling you about this, but with all of this going on, I've been really enjoying working on my book. So it is now almost at the point where I've rewritten everything. This is like the 4th time I've rewritten this book. I just keep getting to the point where it's like, I've got my draft ready and people have read it and I've got opinions and I think about it. And then I go, oh no, actually I can make it better. I think like there's a good chance I'll never publish it because I never think it's good enough. I always think I can make it better, but I've got my alpha readers lined up, so they're gonna come back and read the story soon. I've really enjoyed writing the new draft and it has helped me through my struggles with trying to find a job and everything. And I'm really excited to see what my alpha readers think. So my alpha readers are my closest friends, people that actually know me in real life, who like the same kind of books that I do. And it's just the first set of people that read the book and then see how they feel about it. And then gonna get some more beta readers in. And yeah, eventually I'll get it out there, because like I said, it's brought me a lot of joy. So I hope that maybe it will bring someone else joy as well. I've also written a lot of my PhD science trauma into it. It's a dark academia book, but it just mainly deals with the thought of like what it's actually like to be in academia. And I've got like 3 point of views. One is Elsie's, who's like this really driven academic, like basically the person I am meant to be. And then another point of view is Charlie, who is also an academic, but he is not enjoying it. He chose this path and then realized the path wasn't for him, but because of duty, he has to continue and he can't really turn around. And I think, yeah, all of my PhD trauma went into that. And it did me good to write that out, and also to kind of try to figure out how Charlie comes to terms with where he's at and who he is. Helped me as a person. So I think it's just been therapy writing this book. So, and then we obviously have the point of view of Tiernan. He's got dark hair. I'm not gonna say anything else, but you know where this is going. Just written a lot of things that I felt like a therapist would have said to me into this book to myself. Like, it's hard to be kind to yourself, but you can say it to the characters in the book, and then maybe you'll accept it for yourself as well. Yeah, I'm just casting on this now. I should have looked up how many stitches I actually need. I need 124. Okay. Yeah, I'll just continue casting this on, but for the sake of you guys not having to listen to me ramble on for any longer, and also for the sake of me not having to edit any more footage, because I was doing this video so I wouldn't have to edit like an hour and a half of footage. So let's end the video here. Wow, we've made so much progress, guys. Good job. I'll probably do another knitting video at some point, because I said I made multiple things since my last knitting video. So I thought maybe at like the half-year point, hopefully I'll have this finished by then. But we'll do another knitting update after 6 months of knitting, and you'll see what comes from this. So I'm actually currently looking at my new sewing project, which is sitting right there on my mannequin. It will come. You will see it. It's green. But I just don't know when. It has taken me 2 days. This just doesn't sound long, but normally my sewing projects take a day. So when it would take a week. I sew every Saturday. So normally a sewing project takes me 1 day. This has taken me 2 already. It will take me a 3rd day, which means there is tons of footage to work through. And I was also thinking of maybe shooting the reveal outside. So I just don't know like when to do this, while I also finish my PhD thesis, prepare for a new job, go to Germany. So it will come. But I might take a little bit of a break to settle into the new life of adulthood, of having an actual job, of being able to pay my bills. I got so excited when I got offered the job. I immediately bought a new lipstick. Like, this is like it's like in this economy treating ourselves to something, right? So I'm excited. I will keep you updated on how things go, on how I'm liking the new job, on everything. But we won't see each other, at least for like 2 weeks or so. So I'm sorry about that, but I really appreciate you guys, and I really love every single one of you, and thank you so much for being here, especially on a video like this, which is definitely not going to draw in any new audience. It's just me rambling to you guys, but many of you say you enjoy my weekly videos, so I didn't want to disappoint you by just silently disappearing just because I've got a big girl job now. This will continue. We will continue. The sewing will continue. So will the knitting and the rambling. So I will see you in my next video, and I hope you have a lovely week and you don't get any sicknesses. Yeah, don't do it. Okay, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.